All right, welcome to a regular monthly meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on December 20th, 2021 at 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place and agenda of this meeting has been transmitted to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, The Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the clerk of Princeton, who has posted to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey regarding COVID-19 coronavirus, during the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission will be held electronically via Zoom. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the Princeton Municipal Complex and on the website, and are to be maintained throughout the year. Okay, so we could start.
Would you like roll call?
Yeah,
Ms. Capozzoli,
yep, I'm here.
Mr. Shore? David, you're muted.
Muted.
Thank you. Mr. Endersby?
I'm here.
Ms. Satterfield? Here. Mr. Shatskin?
Here.
Ms. Howard? Here. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, so the first is the resolution regarding the Open Public Meetings Act. Can we pass all these three at the same time?
I think you can.
Okay, I just want to go over the dates just quickly because there's a couple of weird ones at the beginning. Our next meeting is January 10th because the 17th is the Martin Luther King holiday. So, and there's also an application that needs to go to zoning after, so it made sense to do it on the 10th. And then the next month, February, Elizabeth, you have it as February 7th.
Is that wrong?
Well, I was just wondering why not the 14th?
Oh, we could do that. That is Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that might affect plans.
yeah. So if everyone would prefer the 7th, either one is fine with me.
Or you could do the week after too, which I think is the 28th.
I think that might be
21st.
better because of, I think council is on the 14th.
Mhm.
Not 100% positive of that, but typically council is the second and fourth Monday, I think.
Okay. So,
Did you want to change it to the 28th? That's the last Monday in February. No? Oh, I'm sorry, David. No.
No, I was saying that the 21st would be better
Oh,
in
we
terms
can't-
of avoiding a
We can't
council
do
conflict.
21st. It's a holiday.
Oh,
That's
March.
why we, yeah.
right,
unfortunately.
so we can either do the 7th, the 14th, or the 28th. And right now we have on the schedule the 7th. I didn't know what we had, like waiting, like if that seemed like a better date. Since we're going so early in January, is it better to go early in February? Because then we have a long break until March 21st.
Mhm. Right. It's up to the commission. I'm available any of those, either of those dates, any of those dates.
I vote for the 14th.
Okay. All right,
And I vote for the 7th.
okay. So we have one for the 7th, one for the 14th. Anyone for the 28th?
David Shore says no.
The 14th is about halfway between the 10th of January and the 21st of March. So it seems like it's
But
Yeah.
if other people, if people have plans for Valentine's Day, it isn't a great, I mean, we might lose somebody. Like if they wanted to go out to dinner, that would be a real pain, you
We could
know?
have a short meeting.
Yeah,
See that?
that would be nice.
We're a bunch of old people. I don't think we go out on Valentine's Day anymore.
I don't know. Frida's
Oh.
newly married, so I wouldn't say
No.
that.
Not even married yet, so.
Not even
Engaged, so-
married yet, okay?
We're gonna
So,
live through you.
yeah, I know. I don't want to like rain on that parade, okay? So I'm leaning towards the 7th just to make sure we get Frida here.
Oh, thank you.
I vote
Elric,
that way
can,
too.
Elric, can you do the 7th?
You.
Sure. It'll probably be from DR if I'm lucky, and I have reservations about my reservations at this point.
Oh, do you have dates that you're going to be away, Elric?
I have reservations, but as I said, I don't know whether I'll be able to travel or not, so we'll see.
Okay, all right, I'll circle back then.
All right, so let's go with the 7th, and then the rest of the dates are the 3rd Monday. I don't see any changes there.
Correct.
Okay, so so we have that and the notice of special meetings and the charges to subscribers for meeting notices.
I just want to make a correction on the charges. I have the wrong date. It says date of December 22nd, so I'll change that to the 20th, which is today.
Okay, so does somebody want to move to approve those 3 documents?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, so moved by David, seconded by Roger. All in favor?
Hi.
I opposed. Motion carried. So
Okay.
thank you. Now we're gonna move on to the minutes for November 15th of this year. I've been telling Justin how awesome a job he's been doing. He does a fantastic job on the minutes. I didn't have any changes. Really extraordinary job. So anyone else have changes to the minutes for November 15th? And if not, does someone want to move approval?
I'll move approval.
Okay, thanks, Roger. And Elric, I think you just seconded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Great, motion carried. The next thing is the application, and I'm really hoping that we see Ed. Do you want to send him a text message?
I don't have that phone, but I can call the office. I'll do that.
Okay, okay. And I don't know, Justin, maybe you want to bring over the applicant and well, Josh and I guess I don't know who's here, but I'm sure Josh is presenting. So this, just so I read it into the record, this is for 182, 184 John Street, partial demolition for building and roof line changes, new parking, Witherspoon Jackson Historic District, block 1705, lot 18. This is 57 HP 2021. All right, so
Hello, everyone.
hi. So we're just waiting for Ed Schmier, who is usually here for our applications.
And okay, Lubin and Sharon are both on. Wonderful.
Oh, great. And welcome, Lubin and Sharon and Josh.
Oh,
Thank you.
Um,
Oh. Chilly out there?
so you don't have any, I guess I can try to send him an email. Um, I'm just curious.
So I talked to his office and he's aware of it. He left about half an hour ago to do the Zoom meeting. So maybe if we could just wait a few minutes for him to come in and maybe do some announcements or reports before that, if
Right.
that works.
Do we
Yeah.
have a quorum?
I believe we have a quorum, Josh.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
Just waiting for one more.
We're waiting for the municipal, the attorney. Not,
Right, and usually we don't start unless he's here, because, you know, he writes up the resolution and all
Perfectly
that.
fine, perfectly fine. Not in a rush, all good.
I mean, the, like with the theological seminary, they're not here yet, are they?
They're not here, but you know who, Princeton Theologian, yes, Dennis is here. That's about the sidewalk.
Because, I mean, we could do a quick discussion of the sidewalk and then go, as wait, you know, instead of just waiting for Ed.
Is the applicant okay with that?
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Josh and Sharon? And
it just came in.
oh,
Ed's here.
there's Ed.
Okay. great.
Yay. All right, welcome. Hi, Ed, thank you. We're just ready to start 182, 184 John Street. Okay, so Elizabeth, you issued your report
Yes.
and a lot of really good suggestions at the end. So maybe you want to summarize and then go to the comments.
Sure. Let me see, I just gotta, sorry, I gotta coordinate myself here. What I have. Just want to pull out the plan so I can look at it when I'm talking. Okay, so the applicant, Sharon Dew, I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher your first name, has filed an application for historic preservation plan review for partial building demolition, addition and alterations to the existing building, and new off-street parking. The property is located on the west side of John Street and faces down McLean Street. It is identified as block 17.05, lot 18 on the Princeton tax map and also known as 182, 184 John Street. In the former borough R4 zone, the property sits within a residential neighborhood in the Witherspoon Jackson Historic District of the municipal zoning overlay. HPC's attorney, Ed Schmier, has advised all notice requirements for demolition for this application are in order in accordance to section 10B-390 of the municipal land ordinance. So the property contains approximately 0.17 acres that slopes from the southern rear corner of the property to the northern front property corner. The building on the site is centrally located on the lot with an asphalt driveway between the building and the northern side property line. According to the existing conditions plan, there are 8 trees that are found on the property, a mix of deciduous and evergreen, which are located all in the rear yard. In the right of way in front of the property is a 18-inch maple street tree and a fire hydrant. There's an overhead electric utility line that connects the northeast building corner to a utility pole on the east side of John Street. So the subject property is designated on Princeton's Historic Overlay District as Type 2, which the commission knows is subject to preservation plan review for any changes visible from a public right-of-way and paint or adding other surface coloring to an unpainted surface or adding pre-primed and pre-finished material. According to Weiss Preservation Planning LLC property survey, which was performed in 2015, this property was identified as having a structure on the property as a twin residence, which is number 182 on the left and 184 on the right. The building is a large rectangular 2-story, 5-bay house. Fenestrations are symmetrically spaced and aligned between floors. The front entrance door lines under upper floor and windows. There's a cantilevered bay that is centered on the second floor with double windows facing the street and a single window on each side of the bay. The building has a low hip roof with asphalt shingles and an interior brick chimney that's positioned north on the roof line. There's a 1-story rear extension on the back of number 184 unit and 2 small lean-tos on 182. One is centered on the rear elevation, the other's off the side near the back of the building. The main building is wood frame with an exterior stucco finish. Wood siding clads 1-story extensions and lean-tos, and the majority of windows are 6/1, although there is a presence of 1/1 and 3/1 as well. Many windows are replacements. So the building was constructed in 1900 and best known as the Charcoal Inn. William, I think it's pronounced Tague, and William Green were residents of Princeton and they owned the property. The Charcoal Inn was the meeting place of the Nemder Alec, which is in reverse spells colored men. It was a private social club where new members joined only by invitation. According to a conversation I had with Commission member Shirley Satterfield, she informed me that the Charcoal Inn was listed in the Green Book. The Sanborn map extended to include this section of Princeton in their 1902 map, where this property and many others along John Street were already established. The subject property was originally a single-family, 2-story rectangular shaped house. Its footprint remained the same and unaltered until the 1918 Sanborn map, where you could see a full-width covered front porch. The second floor bay window conversion to a 2-family residence, rear extensions and lean-to additions, and address changes occurred after the 1918 map. So the proposed changes, there are currently 3 unapproved dwelling units in the building. The applicant wishes to rearrange the interior space and build a 2nd floor addition to the building and exterior staircase in the back of the building as part of converting the dwelling back to a 2-family residence, which is a permitted use according to the zoning officer. The unit will no longer be a side-by-side, but instead separated by floors. So the 1st floor unit will be rented and the owner intends to occupy the 2nd floor unit. The improvements for this application, they're fairly simple and straightforward. The partial demolition and major construction will occur in the back of the building, including constructing 3 new parking spaces. Part of the rear roof and 2nd floor exterior wall will be demolished to construct a 2nd floor addition and exterior staircase for the new upper floor unit entrance. The roof of the 1-story rear extension will be removed to build a patio above it for the 2nd floor unit. Small canopy roofs will be added with a standing seam metal roof and brackets over the 2 front entrances and 1 entrance on the south side. There are a variety of window configurations that exist, and all existing double hung windows that will remain will be replaced with 6/1 double hung windows, and the smaller size windows will be replaced with awning style. And all doors will also be replaced. So the entry doors will be cherry wood, and the storm doors will be mahogany painted craftsman bronze, which is going to match the color of the new window replacements. The basement door is the only one that is a solid insulated fiberglass door. In addition to this, there is going to be new wall mounted light fixtures, which will be installed above the 2 front entries and the south and centered west elevation door. And there will be a pendant that will be mounted from the ceiling of the 2nd floor entrance roof. The one-story addition that have wood siding will be removed and stucco applied to match the existing stucco on the main house of the building. The stucco on the building will be painted a doe skin color. And the new extension of the driveway that includes the parking area is intended to be pervious pavement. In addition to that, there are other areas that are going to be removed, like small parts of the driveway in the front yard. There's a brick sidewalk connecting the two entrances in the front, and some of the walkways in the back are also going to be removed for the improvement for the parking area. So the commission will be reviewing this application for the appropriateness of the proposed alterations to the building and property. In addition, changes to the new materials should be considered, such as the size and style of new and replacement windows and doors, the new lighting fixture, its style, size, finish color, and its location, new standing seam metal canopy roof with brackets and the color choice, portions of the rear building alterations that are visible from the right of way, and change of material and color of windows and doors, and the demolition of the roof and the rear building wall. HPC is reminded that this application is solely in the jurisdiction of the Historic Preservation Commission. So it will not be going to zoning or the planning board. So when we go down to comments and recommendations, I'll just go through these quickly. So the Historic Preservation Office appreciates the improvements the applicant is committing to this property. The addition to the existing house is contained mainly in the rear of the lot, and alteration of the building will be minimally affected by the view from the right of way. And changes to the rear building roof line will remain lower than the front roof line. Proposed improvements seem to be sympathetic to existing historic structure, the historic streetscape, and the Witherspoon Historic District. The question that comes to mind when I review Weiss Preservation's inventory is that they assess this property as not being a contributing property, which I disagree with in accordance to the information on the property and the Sandmore map. And so I asked the HPC to discuss and determine if they are satisfied with this classification or if they feel that this should be changed to a contributing property. There's a 2.5-foot backup area, which is really not adequate for backing up. So it's recommended that the applicant review this with the land use engineer. Subject to HPC approving this application, we ask that the applicant provide 2 true color chips of the windows, doors, stucco, and metal roof, so we can have that in our file. The applicant indicates that no trees will be removed. However, when you look at the proposed plan, the true trees that are on the northern part of the parking area are really very close and really, I don't believe that they're going to survive. So this should be considered and discussed with the land use engineer and the arborist. And if there's no viable options that they feel they can save it, then compensations should be discussed with them. And if this application is approved, as always, the plan is reviewed by the land use engineer for site grading and stormwater management practices. And for the applicant, there are a few questions I have for them. So when they do their presentation, perhaps at the end, if they could go through those items just to address them, I'd appreciate it. And Madam Chair, I would recommend that Ms. Satterfield provide further details on the significance of this building to the commission, either now or after the applicant makes his presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Shirley, if you want to talk about the charcoal inn just for a minute, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay, I first want to thank Roger and Josh for attending the journey of 15 plaques that were placed a week ago Saturday. And the charcoal inn was one, which is across the street from the Masonic Temple. Elizabeth said most of what I would say, but this is the Green Book. I guess all of you have actually seen it. This is a replica of the Green Book. And the charcoal inn is one of 3 locations that is in the Green Book. And what it says is the Negro Motorist Green Book, the inns listed as the famous charcoal and I'll do my best with this word, Nemderlock Club, which is, as Elizabeth said, is colored men spelled backward because we were colored then. Dining room, cocktail lounge, telephone 1510 at 184 John Street, Princeton, New Jersey. And that isn't one of our noted buildings. We, as you know, we had everything in our neighborhood, and that's one of the social clubs for men. When I came to talk about the Charcoal Inn, I had someone whose name is Florence Broadway to talk about it because it was her father who was the second Black policeman who was not on duty, but he heard ruckus in the Charcoal Inn in 1946. And he went across the street. They lived right across the street next to the Masonic Temple. And when he went in, to see what was going on, he was shot. And he was the first African-American shot in the line of duty and the first policeman shot in the line of duty. And every year in February, the municipal building has a tribute to him. And there is a plaque that is dedicated to Mr. Walter B. Harris. So I'm very concerned about if the frontage of that building is going to look the same. I'm also concerned about how our establishments are taken into residence, and it's a profit, and we can't afford to be in those houses. Josh, the person who bought the house, is that person living in the house, or is that person buying it and someone else is living in it?
So Sharon and Lubin are actually on the call with us today, and they are not currently living in it. Currently, they're renting it out, but their plan is to move to Princeton to live on the second floor. That's the point of this renovation, to allow them to be in Princeton, to live here in town.
So it's going to be rented out?
Well, the bottom floor will be rentals as they are now, but the top floor will be their home.
Will those rentals be affordable for anyone who would like to come back to live back in the neighborhood?
We'll show you. It's a 4-bedroom apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And there is right now no requirement for it to be an affordable. So it's most likely going to be a market rate unit. However, Sharon and Lubin have been renting this structure for some years now. And I believe it's one of the most cost effective in the neighborhood. So
Okay.
I'll let them.
As you know, that's one of my concerns, is that people come, we're not a commodity, and that's what it's turning out to be in our community.
They've owned the structure for some time, and they've wanted to move back to Princeton for some time. And I'll let them really clarify this, but this is their opportunity to come back to Princeton.
And they do know that there's a plaque in front of the building that is there permanently?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to say that that plaque is dedicated by Daniel Harris. Most of you remember Daniel Harris, in memory of his great-grandfather, Rabbi David Einhorn, Reformed abolitionist from Boston, 1855, 1861. So that is a cherished plaque, and that's a cherished building, and it will remain in our hearts as a Charcoal Inn. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Shirley. Josh, did you want to go ahead with a presentation, or?
I have a presentation. I just wanted to ask Sharon and Lubin first if they wanted to say something. And I'm guessing,
Josh, can we swear all of you in, all you and your witnesses, if they want to testify?
sure.
Do you swear the testimony you have given and are about to give is the truth?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You're all under oath, so you can just add to the testimony as you care to do so.
So Lubin or Sharon, I'm not sure which one of you would like to talk, but both.
I will do it. Thank you for your time, and then it's very nice to meet all of you here. Yeah, my name is Yuan Hui Du, and the owner of 182 and 184 John Street. And we used to live in Princeton town, and then 8 years ago, and then we because of Lubin's job, we moved down to North Carolina. And we are planning to move back to Princeton because our daughter was born in hospital in Princeton. And we really enjoyed the convenience and of the, everything in Princeton town, the library, the playground, the schools, everything are so close by. I think we are planning to move back and then stay on the second floor. And I think we are also planning to, let our daughter go back to the high school there and retire in Princeton town. So, and that's why we hired Joshua to renovate a house and then I think just do the one-time job. And by the way, I'm so honored to have this. Recently, we didn't know that when we purchased this property. We recently got to know that, it's the historic house, and we got the play. I think they recently play and placed the play in front of the house. So, and we will try to do our best job to maintain this historic site. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna share my screen. Go through
Great.
slides. Okay. Just before I get into it, there is one minor correction to what was in Elizabeth's report. And as far as we can tell, the building has never actually been a side-to-side dwelling. If it was ever a side-to-side dwelling, it would not have been for very long. You can see with the windows on the center of the structure, there's no bearing line in the center that would logically split the two units. That's what we thought as well when we started this process. But as far as we can tell, the building's always been basically two flats. And when it was the Charcoal Inn, it had social elements on the bottom floor and bedrooms on the second floor, as far as we can tell. There's no hard data, but it just seems that way from the way the floor plan lays out. So moving forward here, here you see 182, 184 John Street. As was mentioned, it's from the Wise report. It's a non-contributing property. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Here's the actual plaque from the Heritage Tour. And I'll point out something in this photograph that led us to make some modifications to our design. But it's really wonderful that, I mean, surely the tour was fantastic, and
Thank
anyone
you.
who has the opportunity to go on this tour with Shirley, it's amazing. And it's a wonderful addition to our community.
And
So-
thank you for your input.
Pleasure. So the property is as of right. The structure is only 30 feet. It's 2 stories, 2.5 stories. The lot coverage is underneath what's required. FAR is underneath what's required. The total square footage for the property is above what's required. The only issue really comes down to impervious coverage. Impervious coverage, we are like right at that limit. And so we recognize that there are a number of elements in this project that we will be reviewing with the town engineering department. The parking, the drainage, the trees, we know and accept that that's the case. Here's the existing site plan. Here's the new site plan with the 3 parking spaces in the back. The area for the turnaround, we reviewed this with the engineer being 2.5 feet. We believe this would be enough. It's not a lot and it is tight, but it should be just enough to allow the car to turn around. And we will review that with the town engineer. These are the 2 trees in question. We will plan on fencing them off and we hope they will survive construction. And we will be reviewing that with the town engineer as well. Right now, as far as we can tell, they're healthy trees. So, they're not sickly or anything like that. So our goal would be to keep them. And with regard to the stormwater as well, we will be complying with the stormwater requirements And we'll be reviewing that with the town engineer. I know that was a question from one of the neighbors. So we haven't designed, additional retention right now. But we will be reviewing that with the town engineer. We have reduced some of the impervious coverage in the front by narrowing up some of the walkways. So hopefully that will help with some of the stormwater as well. Here you see the existing first floor plan. You can note that the stair off of the 184 door, there's a door and it goes right up to the second floor for the stair. And based on what we've seen inside the structure, we believe this is the way the structure has always been at that spot. There most likely was an opening down here that allowed for access to the other social rooms on the bottom floor. And then here's what we were proposing. We're proposing a 4-bedroom apartment. As it ends up, each apartment will have its own door from the outside. They'll have a shared kitchen, living space, and each bedroom has its own bathroom as well. Here you see the existing second floor. There's a low roof area in the back of the U-shaped structure. And this low area here, we will be filling in to make for a new entry. And the low roof section, which was a subsequent addition to the building, we will be taking off the roof pitch and making it into a flat roof like a deck. And here you see that plan. So here's the stair up to the new entryway. Here's the outdoor deck. And then here you see basically is a 3-bedroom apartment, kitchen, living space. And this is where Sharon and Lubin will be living. Here you see the roof plan as it exists now. Note these very low flat roofs in here. We will be, these are higher sections in here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be filling in below the ridge of the roof, so it won't be seen from the street in any way. And we are going to be pitching that down to allow for the stairway to be covered and raise up the area that's flat to the same height as the entire floor. So this roof element gets infilled into that U shape. So it has we're trying to be very low impact here. You'll also note that there are also 3 canopies over the doorways here, here, and here, which I'll show you in a minute. Here you see the elevations. Oh, please note that the rear addition, as it currently stands, has clapboard on it, and Sharon Lubin would like to stucco that. So I'll show you a picture of that later. But for right now, it's still shown as clapboard on these drawings. And so here you see the lower section up on the second floor. And then if you go to the next one, here we've filled it in and we've made for a new entryway. And here you see the stair in the back going up to that door. The front of the building, you can see is really the same as it is now. The one real exception is these 2 canopies and this side canopy. And then the color of the structure will be California stucco, and it'll be doe skin is the color. It's sort of a sandy, sort of light tan or gray color, and it should be noted that it's not paint. It's stucco. It's a mix of elastomeric, so plastic coating, and concrete and cement, and so it goes on as the color coat for the stucco. And what this does is it binds to span over cracks and to somebody in my office just handed me something, sorry. It spans over the cracks, so unlike paint, it won't ever flake off. I know that was a comment from one of the neighbors. So it binds directly with the stucco. So this is the photograph that's actually on the historic plaque. And you'll note that there's actually a flat canopy over this door here. And when we look close at the way the stucco was on the other door, it too has had a very faint patch of where there was a canopy over the door. So, you know, and also it's better to have covering at an entry door. So what we decided to do is we decided to add those two covered areas over. You know, we think that it's more in keeping with what the history of the structure was and the style of the structure. Originally would have had one of these on both of them. And at the same time, you know, by just cleaning up the windows, cleaning up the stucco, you know, we think this will really make the structure much closer to what it was historically. Here you see the back of the building, the lower section of roof, and the pitch section here, and then here you see the stair and the outdoor deck, and then here's the other entry that we're also putting a canopy over. Here you see the side as it is now, and here you see the side with that door put in. So, you know, this section here would have stucco over it. And here you have the front as it is now. And it's not meant to be a perfect rendering, you know, but showing the canopies in the front and some of the new lighting. Clearly we would be removing and fixing the cable lines so you wouldn't have those running on the outside of the building any longer. They would all become internal. You see a color that's close to the doe skin, which is this sort of sandy color. And then the trim is going to a brown bronze color, as would be the new roofing. And the door is still shown as the original door. It would be a wood color, a darker wood color than that. So that's the presentation. And I did get handed something. So I just need to clarify, Sharon, did you want the wood siding to match the color of the stucco, but still stay siding?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I misspoke earlier, just to clarify. So this elevation actually was correct. Here, so the siding, the clapboard siding will stay, but we will match the color of the doe skin for that paint. And everywhere it's stucco, it'll be elastomeric. So there were some questions at the end of Elizabeth's report that I wanted to address. First, I want to say, you know, I believe we not only preserve the exterior of the building, but we enhance it by trying to return the entry canopies to the building. With regard to the question of this being a contributing structure in the neighborhood or not, you know, I don't know, you know, what on an architectural design basis would have you reclassify the building from non-contributing to contributing in the neighborhood. Certainly there has been a significant amount of Princeton history that has occurred in this dwelling. You know, and you know, that is important and significant. I'm not sure if it is history that is being documented with the historic district and maintained, or if it's specific and significant architectural styles. One might note that most of the property styles in the Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood are actually labeled as vernacular, which just means of this place, and it's not specific to an architectural style. You know, this building architecturally, I think, is unique in the neighborhood. And I'm not sure what impact there is, whether it's called contributing or non-contributing. We're here today presenting to HBC no matter what. So, but, that's my comments on that. With regard to the driveway, we believe that the parking area is adequate. It is not a lot of space to back up with, but we will review this with the town engineer. Right now we were struggling with the balance because we didn't want to create more impervious coverage. And so we felt that where we created it, balanced it out. We believe it's tight, but it's usable for this location. In a neighborhood where most have no parking spaces, we are providing 3 in order to be as of right. And we'll gladly review with the town engineer. The next item, we'll provide chips and samples of all the colors to the HPC office. That's not a problem. Our preference is to keep the trees in the back. If the trees are lost during construction, we will coordinate with the arborist and the town engineer to have them replaced. And I'm sure we'd be open to talking to them about that before we start construction as well. Stormwater and grading, we will review with the town engineer.
Hey, Josh,
Yep.
I think maybe if you want to just address the comments on the number 7.
Okay, I'm one item away from that.
Okay.
Yeah, so the doe skin color will not be painted. It'll be a stucco elastomeric coating, as I mentioned. It's long-term resilience, resists cracking, and better for the structure. We've not located any HVAC equipment yet. However, since we are close to the maximum impervious coverage, we would expect the units to go on the roof and they would be out of view from the street. The next one, yes, the landings and the stairs in the front of the building will be repaired and repainted. C, the stormwater system will comply with municipal requirements and will be reviewed by the town engineer. We are hoping to avoid some of the more invasive and intrusive collection systems that are out there these days, because they're extremely expensive to put in the ground. Site plans have been provided that illustrate. I'm not sure which one that was. As far as the landscape and lighting goes. So those plans have been submitted, so you should have that information.
So I don't have anything for the landscape plan. And that's typically something that the
As far as
HPC reviews.
Specific plantings go?
Yeah, I mean, any type of exterior planting, but I know that depending on even if it's visible, if it is, I mean, I think that HPC could also defer to a administrative approval with the chair and myself. So it doesn't have to come back.
Okay, yeah, we can certainly review that with you. That's not a problem. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure that we've put there hasn't been any thought in new plantings as of yet, just because we're so preliminary. Let's see. We expect the trash location to be under the stairs in the back of the structure. At least for the time being, we don't have any other location for it, but that will conceal it from all, from the street. You wouldn't see it at all. And then the last item was a question of sustainability. And, one of the core tenets of sustainability is that we use what we have. That is what we are doing here. We're not tearing down the property, which is non-conforming. We are preserving and enhancing it. Our office standards in general call for sustainable design and construction. And I would guess, based on our experience, that if the project would get LEED certified, which we will not be seeking certification, just because of the things that we typically do, it would achieve a silver rating. And that's with regard to mechanical systems, to the no VOC paints and no VOC coatings, and things we use in that regard would typically get us a silver rating, for our average project.
Just Josh, 2 things. The metal standing seam roof. I know that you had a color chart and I actually identified it. if you are able to give us a color specification on that, you know, if it has a name, none of them were named, just so we can identify it, and if you have a sample, and also do you
Yeah, we'll
intend to
submit
keep?
all the, we will get you all the samples of all the finishes. for-
Okay, and then what about the address? Because obviously the front of the building now is going to be the entrance only for the first floor. So which one will be 182? Which one will be 184? And will you have the same numbering style and mounted on the building or what?
I honestly can't say because I haven't had that discussion with, we just got your report yesterday, so I haven't had the ability to have that conversation with Sharon, but Sharon and Lubin, do you want to talk about the numbers?
Yes, yeah. So Elizabeth, is that okay that we just put the number one up and one down, like a 184 and down and a 182 up on the right side of the building when you facing the building, like on the right side, one up number and a one down number.
Um,
Well, I think it's a question for the post office more than, I mean, is that what you're talking about from as far as the post box is concerned, Elizabeth?
Well, I think it's a variety. It's probably for emergency services too, for location of what's the door they come to, because obviously those two front doors are for the front. But I mean, are you going to have it mounted on the building, same style? And then will you have like a sign or something identifying where the back unit access can be? I mean, it's just a question I have, and I mean, it's going to be up to the HPC, what they want to see, or if they feel it could be resolved later on.
Would it make any difference if originally it was 184?
Oh, you mean,
There were no two numbers, it was just 184.
Well, is it now? They have two numbers right now though, right?
Well, the
Yeah.
property has a designation of 182, 184. That's its designation in the tax map. Effectively, I think it might mean that it's actually two lots, but the number on the building is 184. That is all it's there now.
I think it's just something that has to be resolved. Just for functionality purposes as well.
Yeah, I think.
Does the land use engineer get involved with that, Elizabeth?
I mean, Derek looked at it as far as the application that came in the way that Josh had submitted it. He just really checked to make sure that there weren't any variances. And I don't think that he might have, did he talk to you about that at all, Josh, Derek?
About the numbers, no, but we'll gladly submit a drawing that indicates what, how we plan to number it. With the compliance set, if that's what everyone would like, it's not a problem.
Yeah, we could, I mean, HPC could use as a condition of approval that will be resolved.
Yeah, we would submit it as part of the compliance drawings.
Okay.
Josh, a lot of the pictures I couldn't find originals, except for the churches and some of the establishments. That picture that's on the plaque was taken in 1997. My father was a photographer, and I had him come and take pictures of all the establishments that I knew one day would be changed. So that picture was of 1997.
Great.
Well, I guess we can open it up to questions and comments. Shirley, you want to start?
Start what?
The comments about the presentation. You think this is okay?
I think it's okay. I just, at least the building's going to look like it did several years ago, I guess. And that whatever's done is done in the back, and it won't take away too much from the frontage. I'm just pleased that it's understood that that plaque is there permanently to give the history. So, my comment is just that what's happening to all of our establishments, but there's nothing I can do about that because we don't have the money to sustain them. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. Anyone else? Alric, Roger, any comments about David?
I think it's a great project. I'm pleased with all the stuff that's been considered. And I think I applaud everybody involved.
I have just one. That is these canopies over the front two doors, which I notice are different from the one on the side. To me, they just look a little skimpy, and I'm wondering if it's possible. I don't know how far out they're going to project. 2 feet, 30 inches, something like that.
36 inches is the plan right now.
Good. I would only ask that you consider doing a closed pediment over them, which would include a light, so that the light, you wouldn't be seeing the bulb of the light. The light would be casting down on the door from the underside of the canopy. And
Right.
I think that would be more inviting than
So-
what I see here.
So I guess the reason why we were looking at this is because this seems to be what it was in that, as Shirley pointed out, the image from 1997. And when we looked at that image, we actually went back and looked at some of the historic images we had of the Masonic Lodge, which is across the street. And the detail seemed to be exactly the same. So that's, we were looking at, a structure that would have probably been applied to this building around, 1918, 1919, which dates from a similar time period as the Masonic Lodge across the street. So we were going to be pulling some of the same detailing from there because we felt that they were sympathetic in time, sympathetic in materials. There's a stucco building, has the same shape canopy on it. The one on the side, we did as a shed, in large part because the primary coverings on the Masonic Lodge across the street are this gable form, and on the secondary ones are the shed form. And so that's why we did these here and that there. I mean, we can put an infill pediment, like a beadboard type of thing, which the ones across the street may or may not have had. It's unclear. I don't know if that's what you're looking for.
Doesn't a Masonic temple one come out further? The one that's on the side?
Yes, they're both the Masonic temple canopies come out 4.5 feet and 5 feet. The ones that are pediment shaped like this.
So the question is, was it done for protection or was it done for decorative reasons? The one here.
I would only guess that it's a little of both, and we're only guessing at how far off the building it was coming, based on the the shape and the shadow on the building in that photograph. We were taking our best guess that it was about 3 feet, which is how we ended up with it being 36 inches. We can make it bigger if HPC would prefer it be deeper.
Get into issues of the cantilever at some point.
Right. So right now we're planning on tying it back into the floor. That's the plan.
Well, I agree with David. I think it's got the building itself has nice proportions, and it does have a really vital history. And you seem to have respected both. I appreciate that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I feel like you've done a good job of trying to mimic the historical structure. And I mean, I'm pretty happy with the canopies. It seems nicely in proportion with the rest of the building. It seems like a very respectful project to the original structure. We've been seeing a lot of really, really big massings near historic structures, and it's kind of nice that this hides the addition. So we aren't seeing this as much. We're really seeing a lot more development. So I think this is really great.
Julia,
Um,
ready for a motion?
yeah, I guess if we could stop screen sharing, I could see everybody. Okay.
Oh, I'm
Right,
sorry,
so
Roger
yeah,
did
we're
motion.
ready for a motion.
Well, I move that we approve this project as presented with the, do we need the stipulation about the landscape review done by you and Elizabeth? And I can't think of anything, I can't remember what else.
And then the review with the land use engineer on the impervious coverage and parking.
Right.
And also the identification of the numbers,
Right.
the unit numbers.
And the history,
History meaning what, Shirley?
the history of the building.
Oh, you mean the plaque?
Mhm.
Okay.
And was the tree protection also a condition?
Should be.
Yeah, I think that that'll be reviewed with the land use engineer and the arborist.
I mean, if the engineer and the arborist feel strongly that the trees won't survive the construction, then there'll be arrangements for, planting something new, in their place. I mean, that'll have to be part of that discussion.
Catch it
I mean,
up.
we can't guarantee the trees are gonna survive, so hope they would. We'd want them to. They're significant trees, so, but we can't guarantee it, so that's.
Julie, did you call for any public comment on this? I don't,
Oh, good point, Ed. No. Is there
Okay.
anyone in the public who wants to comment? Elizabeth, Justin, do you see anybody? Hands raised?
No hands yet, but maybe we'll give them a few minutes to allow them to raise their hands if anyone has any public comment at this time.
So there were some questions that were placed in the question and answer section.
Oh, let's see. Okay, so one is for an application, just telling me her timing. She's on the agenda. Neighbor at 188 John Street. Hello, friends. Great to see you all. A few years ago, 182, 184 power washed lead paint off their house into my vegetable garden. Assurance that toxic stuff won't end up in my vegetables. Water flows down the John Street Hill into basements since there will be less ground surface to soak up water. Interested to hear plan for stormwater management. Do you want to
Right.
address that?
So we do plan on complying with the stormwater management, that's required by the town. There's a basement in this building, so it's important for them as well to maintain proper stormwater controls. As far as the paint, hopefully there will be no toxic materials, on the building going to the neighbors or for Lubin or Sharon as well. I mean, they have their family here as well. So that's very important. And certainly, having an elastomeric stucco on the outside of the building will vastly reduce any paint chips or anything like that that could come off the building in any way.
So you're not intending to do any scraping, you're just going to apply directly on what's there. Is that correct?
Well, this material does have to be removed, but that should all be collected. And we haven't done any testing, so I don't know if there is lead paint on the building or not. More of the older buildings in the Witherspoon Jackson actually have calcium-based paints and not lead-based paints on the exterior surfaces, from what we're finding. But certainly that can be tested, and appropriate remediation can be done when we stucco it. After it's stucco, it's considered encapsulated.
So would the motion like to include that be tested and appropriate remediation if necessary?
Oh, yeah, I think it makes sense. And then,
Okay.
yeah, again, I mean, everyone has to comply with the stormwater regulations. So there's no getting around that.
Okay, there's a few other comments. This is from someone anonymous regarding the pervious pavement. Would you please describe how that system works? How far down does the excavating go to install the pervious pavement? And what do the sublayers consist of? Current residents already have issues with water entering their basements during normal rainstorms, so do not want to have any additional water entering their basements due to a change in the current soil conditions.
Hold on 1 second here. let me just- So, I don't remember if we called for porous pavement here.
Yeah, in the back driveway and the
Oh,
parking,
Right.
yes.
Well, so effectively the way, I should have had this part of the presentation, I'm sorry. The way the porous pavement works is it effectively acts like as if it was impervious. It allows for a continuous flow through the system. These systems do have to get vacuumed out like once a year, from leaves and miscellaneous debris to keep them open. But effectively it acts as if the entire backyard was grass or was something growing. So if there was issues in the past, most likely having the porous pavement in this backyard now will reduce any stormwater issues that they may or may not have had.
So I guess that would probably be under the purview of the land use engineer, just, as far as maintenance and things like that
Yep.
for your project.
Yep.
Okay. And we have one more comment in the chat. It's from John Parker from 188 John Street. We're excited about this investment in the property and the fact that the owner intends to occupy that property. Our only concerns are keeping the mature trees and managing stormwater runoff. So I think that both those two have already been addressed.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
All
I don't
right.
see
Well,
any hands.
okay, so David made a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it and
All right,
chime in that I do think it's a good project. Appreciate
Great.
the effort.
thank you. I'm sorry, Frida, I didn't even go to you. Did you
Oh,
have
that's
any?
okay.
comment?
No, I'm in total agreement with what everybody said. No, I think they respectfully addressed the building, so.
On the historic, whether it's contributing or not, I guess we should take that up separately, but certainly seems that that designation should be changed.
Yeah. All right, well, let's first vote on the application and then we can discuss the designation. So it's been moved by David, seconded by Roger. Do you want to go through the roll? Elizabeth?
Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Shore,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes,
Ms. Howard.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
As far as the designation is concerned, I mean, I do think because of the significant historic data, the Green Book information, that it definitely should be contributing. So, I mean, I don't know how we change that, but
Well, I can add changes to our inventory. There's a section there where we update it because I think that there was also another property that we also did in the neighborhood that, that HBC didn't agree upon. But I think one of the reasons that I was also looking at is because I was also looking at the Sanborn maps and the footprint, that the core section of the building really didn't seem to change. I mean, and the exterior didn't seem to be, there was a lot of embellishment. The only thing that I could see was that there was a front porch at one time, but obviously it had been taken off. And then there was the bay addition on the front. But I don't think that those elements that have come and gone or added has really altered the architecture of the building that much. And any additions are really in the back too. And all these properties always have some type of addition that's been added on in the back. So I was actually surprised to see it was not contributing.
yeah, and to piggyback on something Josh said earlier, I mean, this district's designation was largely based on cultural issues as well as architectural issues, perhaps more cultural than architectural.
Right.
yeah, that's true. So anyway, do we need to vote on that or we're okay with that?
And do we need to vote on it?
No, I think you can, the consensus is that Elizabeth will so note it as a contributing property for our purposes.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys for coming in. We really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
good luck with your project. It's really
Thank
wonderful.
you for your time and happy holiday.
Happy
I'm happy that
holidays.
I'm coming back
Thank
to Princeton.
Welcome home.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, come on back.
Everyone
Okay.
stay safe and healthy.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you. Have a happy
Thank you.
holiday, everybody.
Happy holidays.
too.
Thank you. So Ed, are we done? Do we just say happy holidays?
Well, you don't need me anymore, but don't you have a couple of extensions or other things coming up?
Yes, we have one extension.
Oh,
All right,
yeah, we do. We have that extension. I'm so sorry. I was like jumping the gun here. We
I'll
have
hang around for that
actually-
one.
Yes.
We actually have an extension of an application that was already approved in what, 2017? Is that right, Elizabeth?
Yes.
All right, so 333 Nassau Street was approved in 2017, but they didn't make the changes. And now they're asking for an extension so they can do the project.
Maybe I have the wrong person.
It's me. I'm here. I'm just.
Oh, it is you, Maggie?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure because you have a different last name there.
Yeah, that's what yeah, that's my work.
Okay.
Professional last name. Yep, sorry.
Okay.
I'll put on my camera here in a moment.
So,
Hi.
Madam Chair, I could give you a little information about this and
Yeah.
the commission. So the applicant, John and Margaret, for those who were around back in 2017, this is at 333 Nassau Street. And they actually came in for a concept review, which you can see in that package that was included as part of their application, which shows that the HPC chair and myself had approved this administratively. It was building additions and modifications to the existing house. But what they came in for concept review, HPC was satisfied with what they had shown, and they had authorized us to go ahead and approve it administratively. And so that's what that approval was. But ultimately HPC saw, pretty much everything. There were just some minor details that we had to work out. So that was improved actually in 2018, even though the project number started in 2017. But the applicant, she was pregnant at the time. One of the applicants was pregnant at the time. And so, life comes and goes, baby, a lot of things going on. And not until now did they feel that they are able to come and really do the addition they want. They did do some window replacements, but that had been more than 2 years ago. And so they're just asking for an extension. But as part of this application, what the chair and I did was we reviewed administratively. They had a minor change to their footprint. What they wanted to add a half bathroom, a powder room on the first floor that really made no change. I had the zoning officer look at it. He didn't see any issues with it. And so we're going to approve it administratively. However, we need to make sure that the HPC is going to grant this extension for their application before we do that.
Right, so the extension ran out in 2020. Okay, so basically, yeah, it's just granting an extension. Okay, David?
I think with the effort that everybody's put into it already and it's just a matter of timing, unless, I think we should just say yes.
Okay.
What's the length of extension?
What's that?
What's the extension length?
Oh, yeah, was it normally 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so they would have until the end of 2023, I guess.
Maybe we ought to ask the applicant, does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I'm anxious to break ground in the spring.
Okay.
So if it's not done by the end of 2023, we got bigger problems.
Okay.
We'll put that in the resolution.
Yeah, right.
And just from a technical standpoint, if the original application expired in 2020, would a 2-year extension go from the original expiration or from today?
Well, we don't get many of these, but in the land use world, it usually doesn't tack back to when it expired, but it's just prospective. So I would say it would be available until the end of 2023.
Okay, good. All right. So I think it was already moved by David. Is there a second? I see Elric, a second. So I guess you can take the roll call.
Okay. Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Shore,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes.
Ms. Howard. Peter, you're muted.
I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Motion
thanks so
approved.
much for coming in. Good luck.
Okay, thank you so much.
I hope
Have a
you're done by
wonderful holiday.
2023.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay, let's
Okay,
see.
Julie,
That was easy. Well, have a great holiday.
Happy
Ed.
holidays, Ed.
happy
And we-
holidays to all of
Happy
you.
holidays.
And we
Come on, Shirley, come on.
Holidays.
and we
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
we'll see you January 10th.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
All
Good
right.
night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Take
Good night.
care.
Yeah, no holiday party this year.
I know, sorry, I tried.
Yeah.
I didn't make my Jello pie.
Oh, I'm looking for that gel. Yeah, I know. I
I
love that
know.
one.
We
Oh,
all miss that. And
Frida,
Elric
did you-
pesto.
Frida, did you say you're getting married?
Yes. I don't have a date yet, but yes, I'm engaged.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
It's exciting.
And that's why we're giving your Valentine's Day off.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we have the Theological Seminary
yes.
here for a concept, actually 2 concept reviews.
Oh,
So
well, different, actually.
different ones. So
Well,
Elizabeth, do you want to describe it or?
Sure. So this is, I had met on the site with Dennis Castanos, which is the new Associate Vice President of Operations. We've gone through and looked at several sites on their campus and properties they've owned. But one of the things that they are interested in doing is replacing the Slate sidewalk in the right-of-way on the west side of Library Place, which really fronts their properties, majority of them. And I believe in the website that was loaded up, you could see there were several photographs of samples that Dennis had sent us. And I believe that there is one location in which they had provided a colored concrete, which they felt was going to be a good change. They want to be able to remove the existing slate and put this in its place. And I know that HPC had a similar situation on Bank Street where we had a colored sidewalk. It's a little different than what Dennis has here. I think that there's a little bit more granulation on here, but it's going to be HPC to look at and determine. And Dennis, I'm going to hand it off to you for you to discuss and make your pitch.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. As Elizabeth said, my name is Dennis. I'm the new Associate Vice President for Operations here at the seminary. I've been here for about 9 months. And my focus has been to really address a lot of the deficiencies that the seminary has had over the years. And if you have gone through our campus, you have probably noticed that a lot of our properties have been painted. We're actually restoring 3 new homes to its original desire and how it's been. And we're looking to do a lot more things in the future that will definitely enhance our seminary as well as the neighborhood around us. I do have a quick PowerPoint presentation in regards to the area in question. I did have some shots that were taken during the day, during the night. So if you humor me for a few seconds here, I'll share with you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, just let me know if.
Yep, we see it.
Okay, great. So specifically, we're talking about the area right at Library Place, as Elizabeth had mentioned, we're talking about 233 feet that is actually from the end of Adams House, which is this building, all the way to Mercer Street, where we have an actual crosswalk that is made out of concrete already, as well as the opposite side where Payne Hall is, one of the other buildings that we have. This also has concrete. This area specifically, we have over a third of the slates that have been damaged and destroyed. All slate, not only in this section, but also the small section here in Mercer, there's gaps anywhere between 1/2 inch to 3 inches that are tripping hazards. I want to highlight the fact that right now there is no lighting in this area. The only lighting that the sidewalks have is from across the street that provide very poor lighting, right across from Adams House and also on the corner of Mercer and Library Place. As I mentioned, 80% of the slate is a tripping hazard. We have gaps anywhere between 1/2 inch to 3 inches. We have several sections that have over 4 inches. That particular section in Library Place, there's a 4 to 6% grade change from the top of Library Place and Mercer Street. And unfortunately, again, it is extremely poor lit. And it's a tripping hazard that we really want to be able to kind of address and make sure that not only our neighbors, but also our tenants and students are not able to trip. It becomes an issue also, obviously, during winter or rainy season. Sometimes you won't be able to see the puddles, especially if you're talking about the large sections that are missing. You will notice here that some sections have deteriorated considerably in this section. At night, as you can see, there is almost zero visibility when you're walking through the Mercer and the Library Place sidewalks. And you could barely notice some of these areas that are completely trip hazards. But just imagine when they're full of snow or water, it becomes a total danger to our students and our neighbors altogether. We are recommending I have 2 options for you guys to see if you were entertain us. This is a picture of Payne Hall, where the commission had at one point agreed and approved color concrete. This section is just an actual piece of slate. And on your right, both on the right and the bottom part, you will notice that these are the color concrete to match the slate in that general area. So we're proposing to replace the concrete with those areas, specifically to concrete because, again, it fills all the gaps that we have. If you walk through Library Place, you will notice that there's a lot of trees in that area. And unfortunately, slate is not as forgiving as concrete, where you can contour concrete to make sure that you avoid any tripping hazards. Again, there is a better grip factor when you're using concrete versus slate. And again, it's easier for the staff to be able to remove the snow. Another option that I did look and research that could be a possibility that we might be able to do is stamped concrete in addition to being colored. It gives it that additional texture. However, the longevity of the concrete is reduced when it is stamped in nature. But again, what I'm trying to pitch is more of a safety concern that I have for our area. And hopefully you guys are able to review this. I'll share this with you guys so that you have this on record, the images and also the options that we're looking to possibly do. And hopefully you guys could approve this concept.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Well, I know certainly the municipality's been using tinted concrete in multiple locations. Full disclosure, I was walking on Prospect Avenue yesterday on Slate. I tripped, I sprained my wrist. and so this one is near and dear to my heart right now. Anyway, but any questions, comments? Yeah, Elric?
How long is the stretch of sidewalk that you hope to replace?
So we have, on the Library Place side, there's 233 feet. And on the Mercer side is only 65 feet.
Just that, as we noted last summer, those of us who were out at the Princeton dump site, the municipality has saved a good deal of slate over the years, and there's quite a lot of it there, but nowhere, not that much.
Yeah.
By the same token, if it's taken up, I'd like to think that it could be saved somewhere, because sooner or later a project's going to come along, which is not as vital to foot traffic, where it would be a handsome material.
Oh, we would definitely save any material. We would basically use a contractor that would put the slate pieces into pallets, and we would transport it wherever it needs to get transported so that it's safe. I mean, at the seminary, we actually replaced on the chapel, the slate that we had there, and we put slate back, but more tempered slate, 1.25 to 1.5 inches, as opposed to the nominal that it's in a lot of these places that is 3/4 inch to possibly 1 inch only. But yes, definitely, if approved, we will definitely put them in pallets, and we would gladly transport them to the township.
Thank you.
That's great. And then David Cohen.
Yeah, I was just curious. So are there going to be adjacent areas where there will be remaining slate once this new sidewalk goes in?
No, all the adjacent areas are concrete. It's currently concrete in all the adjacent areas. I mean, actually, the intersection is concrete as well. So
I remember you mentioned that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difference from the photographs that you were showing, which were instances where there was existing stone to remain, and then the concrete was being detailed to blend with the remaining stone. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, so in Payne Hall, where you guys approved, the approval was only for the sidewalk, not necessarily the plaza. So the plaza area within Payne Hall remain slate. Again, it's not foot trafficked as much as it would be a sidewalk. So that's why it kind of remained in those areas. But the actual sidewalk within Payne Hall was replaced to concrete.
All
One
right.
other question, lighting?
Yeah.
Will you be adding lighting at all to the side that says bereft of it at the moment?
Well, it all depends, I guess, on the town. We would gladly put some lighting around the area if need be, probably on the base of the concrete section. But this is actually throughout the whole neighborhood. If you walk through the areas of the seminary, I would say the lighting around that section, and actually Edge Hill, as well as Hibben, the lighting is extremely poor by the town. I think that in total, there might be maybe 3 light posts for a whole block in those areas. We do have actually contacted the town to see if they might be able to replace some of the lights that are out. So we have my facility staff who is responsible for notifying that. We are reviewing a lot of the lighting that we have around campus, and we'll be changing them to LED to make sure that it is brighter. So we're doing a lot of improvements, not only on the exterior of the seminary, but also the interior side of the seminary.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yeah, David.
I guess I'll be the historian kind of person today, just so we have it in our record. That I think that your study of that sidewalk area is fair and just, and I understand about tripping and lighting. I get all of that. What I hate to see between this project and a bunch of projects that we're doing in the downtown and at intersections, we're losing a lot of historic fabric, a lot of texture, a lot of a lot of what we're supposed to be safeguarding, I guess. I think part of it is we don't have some solutions to these areas or budget. I think that texture and surroundings is what helps define a place. And even like brand new projects that you go to, large corporate or arts or any kind of large facility, even part of what makes the place is the materials they've used, how they've used them, and you feel like you're transforming into something special. So losing a lot more of the stone is bothersome. We can say that we're going to safeguard it out at the Princeton's facility, which we're glad to see is acres and acres and acres of space that they can save stuff. I don't know, it hasn't happened yet, but I know that we've gone out there and reused any of that stuff. But Frida and I have been on a committee where we've, let go of bluestone curb, and Julie's been there too. We're just making a lot of change, and I get it. But I looked at those photographs, which were beautiful, that you sent us, making a good case for the look and the quality of historic fabric. And I don't have a solution, but I just felt like I should say that for our record.
I do want to say that we will be keeping the slate, and I'll share again this the image so the way you guys can see it, to the entries for our area. So we have in Adam's house, there is slate that it is basically outside of the sidewalk that we will maintain. We will also maintain the side into the building, the slate here, as well as in 81 Mercer Street, where we have entryways to this area. So the slate will stay within this area, the landing here, as well as in the front part of Mercer Street. So we will only be replacing it in the pedestrian walkway, where the tripping hazard for anybody actually in the neighborhood. But we will maintain, I agree with you. I mean, the seminary has been here for over 200 years.
Right.
We like to maintain as much historical aspect. I mean, if you guys have an opportunity to take a look at Stewart Hall, we just spent over $27 million to renovate Stewart Hall and Brown Hall to its original decoration. So the seminary has a commitment to keeping a lot of history within our own borders.
And appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hadn't realized the part about the entrances. Thank you for that part.
No, you're welcome.
And
Thank you.
David, I take your comments to heart about the Nassau Street streetscape. While there are things that I like about what happened at Bank Street, I do think that, Jeff Speck came and was pretty critical of the material choices and the concrete tooling. And I think it's less than fully successful. And I'd like to bring it to council if it's just a cost related decision, we should invest more and get a result that we're really happy with. So.
Thank you.
And obviously the seminary will be responsible for putting new sidewalks and doing all the work associated with this particular project.
Got it.
Right. Well, it seems like it makes sense. And definitely very, very happy about the time and money put into the restoration of the buildings. That's tremendous and very helpful to the community. So thank you. I guess we'll see you soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So we also have a review,
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
yes.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I was trying to talk to you. I was just wondering, would the commission, I don't know if they've made a decision on this, was it a unanimous decision or is it still open? for
No,
them
it
to
seems,
come-
it seems there's unity on them doing this. I mean, I
Okay.
don't think there's any dispute over it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, because I'm just wondering if they do move forward, would they approve for it to be reviewed administratively, so it does not have to come back to HPC?
I think this is one of the instances where safety has to be paramount, and I agree with David's comments. that you lose something, but the greater good is not having people like Julie fall down.
But does HPC, are they comfortable with, if the applicant comes in to move forward with this, that HPC would allow this to be reviewed administratively without it coming back to the full commission?
Take a vote, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it.
Good.
Yeah, I think everybody's nodding.
Okay, so I'm assuming unless someone objects that when the
We'll just
applicant
do
comes
this
through
and
administratively.
right. So we'll just do
Okay.
this administratively and maybe we'll see you for another project.
But definitely you will.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Sure. All right, there's also a conceptual review of the renovation, rehabilitation, and addition of Loose Hall. And that's also at the seminary.
Actually, I don't think they're actually the seminary. They're different.
Yeah, that's correct. We're leasing the land to the next
Oh,
person.
right, this is the Center of Theological Inquiry, which is not the same as the seminary. Okay.
Correct.
I see. And I see Ryan Kennedy. Hi.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman.
And so I guess if you guys want to start, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm
Am
just
I,
taking a
am I
quick-
missing anybody, Ryan?
Elizabeth William Storr, he's the executive
see him.
director.
Yes.
I think he's the last person on the list that hasn't
I see
been
him. Thank you.
brought over. So thank you all. And again, I want to first thank everyone for the concept process. It's helped us out in so many other applications. And I just so appreciate you guys meeting with us preliminarily. And just want to thank Elizabeth and the rest of staff. We had a great meeting last week on some of the technical items. This is a essentially a renovation of the property at 50 Stockton Street. It is the building for the Center for Theological Inquiry. Madam Chairwoman, as you kind of guessed, there is, maybe confusion is not the right word, but we got the same kind of response from the staff meeting. A lot of people think because they're so physically close that they are the same entity. They are both in the same field and kind of operate in similar circles, but CTI is, despite having the same attorney often, very different from PTS and a separate entity. After talking with staff, we're all very pleased that we'll be coming back to you for historic approval. It's in the E2 zone and in the historic district for your review, but nothing really is happening with the site. The parking is staying the same. The exterior of the site is really staying the same. So we will, HPC eventually will be hearing this both for historic approval and as a minor site plan without variances. And our next stop will be back here once we file our application. CTI has assembled a great team led by the Michael Graves firm to design and essentially enhance this building at 50 Stockton, which is really right in front of the seminary's library. Most of what I think you'll see from the front remains unchanged. I was surprised though, having, I guess, grown up in the area in the 80s when this was built, that this building is not much older than well, it's much younger than I had thought. It was tastefully done, I suppose, then, but what will be done will enhance it and bring it up to the current century standards for use. First, just very quickly, again, just because they're neighbors to us all, and it's an opportunity for them to explain how good neighbors they are and what part of a community they represent. Coming here, not just from this coast, but I think perhaps from overseas, joining us as the executive director. Will, if you want to unmute yourself and quickly introduce yourself and say a few things about CTI.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be in conversation with the Commission. I'm the director of the Centre. I have served as director from 2005. And often there is a natural understanding that we're part of the seminary. We're good neighbours and value their world-class theological library. But we were founded in 1978 as a 501c3 nonprofit corporation with the state of New Jersey, with a very distinctive mission to foster research on religion, not only in the Christian tradition, but across the world's religious traditions, and to bring theologians and scholars of religion into dialogue with scientists and scholars in the humanities on what we call global concerns. Our current program this year is on religion and the natural environment. We don't have a permanent faculty. We don't have graduate students. We have an international visiting scholar program. And our main building, as Ryan said, was opened, purpose-built and opened in 1984, named after Henry Luce, the founder of Time magazine. His son, Hank Luce III, was a founding trustee. And it was purpose-built to foster interdisciplinary research on religion, designed originally for up to 12 visiting scholars, and with a multi-purpose room to welcome the public for public lectures and events, staff offices, and meeting rooms for the scholars. Almost 40 years on, we recognize the need to renew, update the infrastructure, but we're also taking the opportunity for a major renovation to create more collaborative spaces for our research community, moving from 12 to 8 in the research community of visiting scholars in normal times. But also as a nonprofit, we're very committed to expanding our public presence and performing a more effective public benefit for the Princeton community and for the wider public community through global webinars and digital events. And so this renovation is to advance our mission in the 21st century and to help us be better members of the public community in Princeton and beyond. Thank you, Ryan.
Well,
Thank you.
next, I'm really the star here, because this is about the design of this building. I'll turn over to Kathy from Michael Graves to go through, the where this is, how it relates to the neighborhood, and what they have planned.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I again, thank you, Ryan. I'm Kathy D. I'm a principal over here at Michael Graves Architecture and Design. Just down the street. It has been such an honor to be invited to work on this project by CTI. So happy to have you here to hear your initial thoughts on our project. What we have here first is an aerial location map so everybody can kind of get situated. You can see CTI is here, Route 206 running across into Nassau Street and downtown. You can see it kind of finds itself situated so in between Morven, which is across the street, as well as across the library parking lot, you can see Alexander Hall. So we've provided just some photo references. I think everybody is familiar with the very significant buildings that are surrounding us on this site. And at any point, if I gloss over anything, feel free to stop me, ask questions. Love conversational discussion. Here we're seeing the same kind of aerial map, this time with the red boundary is showing the historic district. And then in red here is the CTI building. You can see it. This is a snapshot of it from the street, the front yard, and then from the roof of CTI looking at the library. Across the street here, we have 65 Stockton, home of Thomas Mann. We have Morven, and we have the Princeton municipal offices. On the same side of the street, we have the Lennox House here on the corner. And then in the back here, you have the library, and then next to us on the other side is Trinity Church. As we were working on the site and just trying to dig further into understanding, the significance of the location, and also to see if there was anything that was going to help inform our decision-making process. We've kind of gone back here. You can see the Sanborn map. And then some of the older pictures, you can see here the original building on the site, which is actually, I think CTI is actually sited in front of it in the park, what used to be the park. But a photo of Thompson Hall, which used to be Borough Hall, located here, as well as, you know, what exists today here as well, behind Thompson Hall, the stable here, the original library. It's just wanted to share some of the historic photos, showing some of the things that used to be here that were pretty amazing, as well as the things that are still here that are pretty amazing. But also wanting to bring out the fact that you can see in terms of the density of the buildings to the landscape, things are pretty spread out, both at this time, and while things are closer together, you can compare the density in this area where CTI is to downtown, which is much more dense. Get back here. So here we're just taking some pictures from the street. This is what you actually see. This is across the street. You can see the houses and the fencing and the walls. And here you can see we just took pictures of the street frontage as you see it. And then this is CTI side of the street, where you have Trinity Church, which is features quite prominently. And then you drive by and you can see CTIs, which sometimes, you know, after having lived in Princeton over 20 years, I myself must admit that I've driven by this building and not realized it was here until invited to visit. So, so again, the street frontage with Trinity Church. Here we have CTI, the Lennox House, and then just for contextual reference, we have here the library, which is actually behind. A little bit more of a up close look at the building. You can see it was designed, it was built in 1983. So it was from a different era, more current, but it was designed in the Georgian style. And just taking some pictures here of the detail of the cornice, the roof, which in closer observation is actually an early type of synthetic slate. And then some snapshots of the windows, which is Appella. And this is also the precursor to the true double pane insulated. It actually has a piece of glass, a second inner piece of glass that's removable. And this is the front yard view. So in terms of what we're proposing for the project, the building itself is in relatively good condition. It was built in the 80s, so it's been a while, and what we've determined and what we would like to do is give it a little bit of love. That's kind of how we've been thinking about it. You can see in the bottom row here, there is the existing footprint, and what is in the upper row is what's proposed, which is not too much. The bones of the building are quite good, so we're keeping most of the facade. We want to do some window replacement, roof replacement, just in terms of you know, keeping up with energy and also the life of some of the materials on the outside of the building. But most part wanting to preserve it. There are some interventions on the exterior that we are looking at, which is, you can see here on the first floor to the north and the south, proposing additional vestibules. So this would, right now, the front door comes off the parking lot to a side entrance. And what we're trying to do is move most of the main movement through the building through the north and the south on axis here with 206. And then back towards the seminary beyond. So we've added these vestibules. The vestibules not only help us control air as you open the doors for energy, but they also will provide an additional acoustic barrier as people walk in and out. As we all know, 206 can be noisy. And then on the second floor here, you can see we've taken a little bit more liberty on the south, which is the side not facing Stockton, to try and bring out this collaboration space, which is the heart of the mission of CTI, to bring people together in this room to discuss things in a safe space. I wanted to point out here, and we're going to see it in the next slide, but again, trying to, on the side here, instead of putting an exterior addition, we're trying to reach out with the landscape towards the building. So here we have some of our initial design intent. This is the landscape master plan that we're currently working on. So you can see 206 at the top of the page. This is just some reference photos, and I'm just going to zoom in so you can kind of take a look at our design sketches so far. This is from Arnold Associates. They did this, they contributed, they're on the design team and are so talented. So thinking about bringing this front yard, bringing a more organized presence to the front yard, providing a hedge here. As you can see, a lot of the thought around these paths have to do with just providing an accessible route around the building. So it's going to, support accessibility. And that's the main thing. Again, here, thinking about enhancing the planting so that the view, which is to the Trinity Church, which is an amazing view, just trying to enhance that. So bringing the inside of the building out. And then again, as you can see with the reference in this phase 1 here, we are looking at upgrading the systems of the building and investigating the location for a geothermal field to help us with our sustainability. And as well as accounting for stormwater. So after talking about it in plan and the sketch, this is kind of, we're showing here the intervention. What is this going to look like? So here we have on the top is the existing CTI building. And then below, this is the vestibule that we're proposing. So trying to enhance the front door in a way that's respectful of the existing building and facade design, but still being able to provide a little bit of a grander entrance, acoustical separation, energy compliance, but again, not really changing much of the overall mass of the building and its perception from the street. This side is the south side, which is not facing Stockton. And again, on the south, taking this middle portion and being a little more aggressive on the back side, trying to bring light into the building. Right now, the windows are a little bit small and wanting to try and bring light not only from the south side, but also introducing a skylight to the top of the building to bring light into the middle of the space. And again, so the top being what's currently there now, and then what's proposed. Here we're just doing some studies about materials. Again, this metal box being the heart of the CTI mission, using this supporting bridge motif. It does recall some of the materials from like the white brick from Morven, some of the arches from the municipality, but really wanting it to kind of evoke a bridge motif because we're trying to bridge worlds in the CTI mission. And also we wanted to respect the existing building and also try to articulate any interventions that we were proposing differently. So there was a clear visual understanding of what was existing and what is new. And again, using those same materials, the white, to distinguish the front entrance. Part of this project, again, as I mentioned before, is replacing the windows. We would replace them this time with a current code compliant window that was energy efficient, somewhat, trying to reproduce the pattern of the window lights, but not necessarily in true historical fashion, as the windows themselves that are in the building are not historical, but really wanting to preserve the look of the existing building and how the new additions play off of that existing construction. Here are some other three-dimensional views. As you can see here, I was speaking about the terrace trying to reach out to the landscape rather than building a physical addition, opening up the windows to the view outside and then bringing this grass terracing, trying to respect the amount of additional impervious that we might bring to the site by using other things besides hard paving. Again, showing that side. This is the side facing Trinity Church, trying to open up the building. And then here's a view from Alexander. And here we're just looking at on the left, the existing photo. And then we've tried to Photoshop to match here the proposed. So this is kind of what you would see in the wintertime from across the parking lot. And just, we did these elevation studies. You can kind of see the change from the existing building to the intervention here to the south. Existing building to intervention. And again, the building itself was built in 1983. It is not in and of itself a historic building landmarked per se. But we did really appreciate it and the fact that it was not really in such bad shape. The use of the building is not changing. It's downsizing slightly, in fact. So we didn't really see any need to knock it down to build a new building. And again, some three-dimensional studies, again, with everything that you see up here. The landscape is new, the vestibule is new, but then this is the building as it exists today. So that's kind of what we've brought to share with you, and appreciate your time and looking forward to hearing any preliminary thoughts or questions that you might have as we move forward.
Yeah, we really appreciate this. It's very interesting to be looking at a building from 1983. We don't often do that, so it's kind of interesting. I guess we could go back to the regular view for a second.
Which view would you like to see?
Oh, just the panelists. So
oh, okay,
I can see everybody.
Stop share.
Yeah. So in terms of historic, correct me if I'm wrong. It has to be 50 years old, right, to be considered historic?
Typically 50 is the milestone marker.
Yeah. So I know my nephew was born in 1983, so I'm just gauging it. I'm gauging it by that. But no, I mean, I think that, you know, these improvements look like they will make the building much more enjoyable, more natural light, more open. I don't know, are there any, I'm really curious what Elric has to say.
Yeah, first of all, I hated this building since it was built because it was Thompson Hall. And Thompson Hall was one of Stedman's best buildings. Fortunately, Connie Grice saved a lot of pieces and I have them. The front doorway and a lot of the woodwork, whatever. Thompson Hall is gone. Seminary, one of the founders was my great-great-great-grandfather. I have some of the bookshelves behind me are built out of shelving that came out of the Lenox Library when my mother was persuaded one of the people in demolition to let us have the wood. Sorry, that's just my background. I just think this is really heavy-handed, and the building is not there's nothing particularly distinguished about it. The proportions are way off. It's really not Georgian. It's not even Georgian revival. It's just bad interpretation from the 1980s. But I respect Michael Graves and his legacy. I have the feeling Michael Graves would just cringe if he saw this. I think it's the arches and the materials and whatever are really unfortunate. And the only good thing about it is that you are landscaping it. I don't think parking lots are particularly attractive, but at least you don't see the building much from Mercer Road, and that's to its advantage. Sorry to be so positive about it. I'll be interested in my fellow commissioners and their attitude.
Right. Are there other comments, Frida?
Oh, boy. I guess I'm in the other camp. I feel like the building as it exists is kind of nondescript and just there. And I love the bold moves you're making. The light, the glass, I really like that. It lightens up the building. It brings in, it actually looks like something's happening there, that there's a lot of thinking going on in that building. The one question I have though, in the existing, I think I see a chimney, and then in the proposed, there's none. So I'm just wondering if you're taking away a fireplace or something.
Yes, we are taking away fireplace.
Okay, just curious. But I mean, I do like it. I do think that it kind of brings it keeps, I mean, it's not historic. It kind of looks historic, but you're upgrading it, I feel, in a respectful way, but yet you're saying something different is going on here. So
yes, that's our hope.
Right. Well, I have to say I have a 1980s edition on my house, and we had to replace all the windows. I mean, it was a mess. So I just don't think the materials from that time period necessarily last that long. So I'm entirely sympathetic that there needs to be a renovation. And yeah, I'm kind of with Frida. I think bringing the light into the space is going to make it from a very nondescript building to a much more dynamic interior space. I mean, maybe the exterior won't change that much, but the interior will probably be dramatically different. So I think from a historic preservation point of view, I don't think the viewscape is going to change all that much, but I think from an experiential point of view, it'll probably change quite a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. David, sure, you have anything?
I always have something. Front, back, side. I really like the back, the one that's on the opposite side of 206, because I think it expresses a lot of change that's going on in the building, which, if I understood what the president was saying, is a shift that's going on with the institution itself, and that they want to be able to do things differently, and their building and the way they use it and the light and the space and all those things really makes a lot of sense. And I think it's very exciting. I think it's a more complete kind of design. It's got a lot of elements to it. The side that faces Trinity Church, I think is quite nice in the way that you're going to spill out onto that lawn and perhaps be relating those two spaces. Very cool. The parking lot side is the parking lot side, and that's kind of hard. The front, I get wanting to have a new expression there. I get not wanting to have the ersatz colonial Georgian design there. That building, I have trouble with it too. I just don't see that part yet. It doesn't express to me, yeah, we really needed to do this, and this interprets what we're doing like that back edition does.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's all that you can come up with for there. I don't know. It's just, it doesn't come across this with the same excitement for me as the back. So my question is, in the borderline, I think we have to walk carefully, is am I feeling a sense of aesthetics here? And my sense of what I like is aesthetically driven? Or am I trying to figure out what's appropriate for a building that was, did that building, when it went up, did that have to go through historic preservation review? That's a question I didn't think about in 1983. But at any rate, I like a lot of what's going on there. I like a lot of what's going on there. I think it kind of reflects change, and a lot of our buildings in town have changed over time. That's what we try to point out. That's what we try to explore, especially when we're putting the house tour together. And we've got some very different addition onto it, how the houses and the buildings were used differently to adapt to their times. So I think a lot of what you're proposing here is all about that story, and it's a story to tell. I just don't like the front situation.
All right.
Yeah, congratulate you for a lot of hard work.
Thank you.
Also, yeah, Elizabeth?
So I don't vote, but I thought I'd chime in as far as concept. I probably agree the most with David. I think the back, I like the back. I think it's different. I think it's open. I think it goes well with what's existing. And I think the change actually works well. The sides are the sides. The front, I feel like it's an attempt to make something different, but I think it just misses the mark a little bit. I don't know what it is. I think that it feels, the entrance feels, the enclosure feels kind of heavy. I'm troubled by the height of the top of it, which actually hits close to where the bottom of the windows are. I think proportionately, it doesn't work well as the back. But I think that if it's worked a little bit more, it could be better. And that's the only thing that I have to say about that. But I think that, adding the landscape always helps. And I think that there's a lot of thought put into that.
Right, thank you. And Shirley and Roger, I don't know if you have anything to comment.
No, I agree with David and Elizabeth to just kind of leave the front alone. I'm glad that it's not historic because we'll be talking more about what you're doing to it. But I've been on the inside, and the inside is just beautiful, and the windows will bring in more light, but not change the interior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's gonna, one would experience the building very differently with that back expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And that will probably be the biggest change. Yeah, Roger, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, I'm concerned about the front door as well. I do think it's a little too heavy. I sort of feel on thin ice here because it's not a historic building, and we are verging into aestheticism as opposed to maintaining a historic building. But as I have a little more trouble with the back than other people I've heard, but go for it. I mean, it's just it's very Gravesian, I have to say, and sometimes that works for me, and sometimes it doesn't. But the front is, I think you want to be more welcoming. I understand that, but I'm not sure that the current design does that.
I think because it's in the historic district, even though it's not a historic property, I mean, a historic building, that HPC has to look at how it integrates into the streetscape. And I think its presence from Stockton Street is very important. So whether it's historic or not, I think that it needs to be appropriate and needs to relate well to what is historic out there.
It's quite a contrast to what the building is next door to it that had a fire several months ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now that building, I think, is historic. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well,
Breakers in Newport, same architect.
oh,
That's right, yeah.
so I guess we'll wait and see. But in general, I think the consensus is that opening up the back is really wonderful, and the sides seem to work quite well. And there's just some concern about how the front relates to the rest of the streetscape.
Can I ask a question? Because I really appreciate everybody's comments and just want to make sure that I'm understanding what I'm hearing is the potential that we have not been radical enough on the front. Is that a correct understanding of your message, or is that not?
I don't know if that's the message. I just think that perhaps, I mean, the back obviously is a big change, but it opens up to a different type of space. It's not a street frontage. So I think that that is appropriate and it works well. So I think, I mean, and the commission members can correct me if that's not my interpretation, but I think that I don't know. I mean, it could be if you made it more dramatic, could work, but then maybe it couldn't. I mean, it all depends on what it looks
understood,
like.
Understood.
You know, but I just think that it just isn't quite there yet. I think that there's opportunity for improving it.
Thank you.
If I may, just to follow up on Kathy's question, because again, it's this concept, we want to try to get as much of your thoughts as possible. One of the, I know Kathy talked about the kind of in the environmental from a door perspective, right? To either screen from the noise or to have the air being held slightly for opening. One of the things that came out of the staff meeting, which I hadn't really thought of till I realized when I went to the building, I had no idea which door really was the front door. I just, perhaps Kathy, that was something I felt we talked about. Maybe if there's any input on that versus, you know, whether you were to scale it up or scale it down, if there's any need to call out for users of the building that that's a place that should be visited. You know, the way the building speaks on the site now, you really are drawn from the parking lot to the side facade, and I nothing told me I should have gone, you know, maybe signage, but that I should have gone to the front. It seemed almost like a false front door that I really shouldn't have approached. So that came out of our staff meeting a little bit. I just didn't know, Kathy, was there anything you wanted to add to that to just kind of elicit the comments from the board a little bit more to give us some direction on, you know, whether it should be smaller or I mean, I don't mean by size, but just if that's an element necessary to address, you know, a problem to solve essentially.
Yeah, if I do you mind if I share again, just real quick?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And I think that's a good point. And one of the things that we are trying to do is currently the entrance is off the parking lot, just out of convenience, and it's kind of like a side door. And we're trying to use the landscape really as much as we can, because the building itself is very discreet. And there's quite a lot of land surrounding the building. And then, you know, in opening up this door, in opening up this door here and providing a path through, in trying to enhance the landscape, you know, not necessarily being fully dependent always on the architecture to make the space, but to try and improve the landscape to make that also a space that people want to occupy. I think it is that was part of the intent. And if I hear what you guys are saying in terms of maybe studying it more, let me get this one, studying that front entrance a little bit more, to make that a space. Because again, we're relating, not only you can walk out to the front yard, and if it is less of a leftover space, right, facing Stockton, but more of a place to be, then you're also looking and contemplating Morven as well. So really trying to reach out to the context by enhancing that space.
Yeah, and maybe it's landscape that does that, you know, elegant landscape and hardscape. But that's all I can think of.
Sure.
All right. Well, any other final thoughts? I mean, we look forward to seeing you guys again. I hope this has been helpful.
Yes, thank you very much for all your feedback. Really helps.
Good.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it very much.
Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, take care. All right, so we're moving on to public comment. Is there anyone in the attendees that has their hand up or?
Oh, no. No hands are found.
Okay, well, Any reports?
I do want to mention one thing to the commission. I know that the HPC has reviewed 2 applications recently, which had to do with the affordable housing overlay. And I think that there were concerns that had come up. And I knew that there were, several commission members who were, who had some concerns about some of the things, and they thought that there could be some tweaking perhaps that HPC could recommend. And I know that Elric and David had volunteered to be on a subcommittee. And actually, Julie, I didn't think she was interested because she's so busy, but I think that she felt that she would also be interested because she is the HPC chair representative for the planning board. And I think that she felt that, for her to be involved and have a voice, I think that is that correct, Julie?
Yeah. No,
I felt that she would also like to perhaps be involved with that subcommittee. So,
well, we're talking about that one specific overlay that goes from Nassau Street.
yeah, I think it's for the
Wigan.
historic district. And I think I think there's certain things that already clearly we could see that there are some concerns. One, which is the maximum 10-foot setback, that if there is a prominent historic building there, that they shouldn't be required to put it in front of it if the existing building is set back. And I think that, and David Cohen, you have worked on it. So I think the intent was, because it's identified as in a historic or recommended historic district, that they were trying to create some sense of sensitivity and preservation or incorporation of the historic property to this overlay. And I think that HPC agrees that they are in support of us, increased density in this area, and affordable housing is a component. So I don't think it's that. I just think that some of the criteria that HPC has seen, that they feel that perhaps that they would like to give some suggestions on how to make it work better, just from at least the 2 projects that they've seen.
I think that would be welcome. I specifically on the question of that maximum 10-foot setback, that was created originally for Nassau Street. And I think it was created with the expectation that it would only come into play when there was a non-contributing structure that was being replaced, or where new construction was coming in front of an existing structure. There's I think it's an insurance office or something down by Jay's Cycles. It's close to there. That's set way back, and we were trying to sort of cure the gap in the street frontage there. It wasn't really intended to be competing with existing historic buildings that were going to remain. So like that second project, I forget what the number is, 42, I guess, Wiggins, where, yeah. So I think that that's a great example, Elizabeth, of something that could be improved in the ordinance. And, if the subcommittee has other things to recommend, other ideas to recommend, I think I would be open, and I think others on council would be open to making some refinements. Anytime you write a new ordinance like this, you learn stuff.
It's like a new car.
When it starts to get implemented. So
right. So I think that, even if it's just some additional wording to clarify, I think that would be really helpful. And so I'm just offering it to the commission if they are in agreement that the subcommittee, that you support a subcommittee of the 3 appointed members to kind of work on it and then report back to you on what they determine before going before the planning board and then council. And of course, David Cohen would want to have your input too, since you were always very much involved in that overlay.
Be happy to be part of it.
Another thing is that the master plan is underway. The consultants have been hired, and you know, I think it's important for us to get you know, input on the historic element. So you know, maybe the, I don't know if a different subcommittee or can work around the master plan, the revisions, or maybe we already have that subcommittee.
I'm wondering, I'm seeing if we have a subcommittee already, and I think that we're going to be reviewing that at the January meeting.
Okay.
And so if that's not on there, we can always add it on and see what members would be interested in being on that. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Let me see if I can find it. Master plan, but we'd have to have new people because it was Julie, Robert, and Tom White. So we can update that.
Okay.
That'd be great. So should we have a yay or nay for that subcommittee?
I mean, it's super important. This, just to flush out what Julie was saying a little bit, this is a major overhaul. We're essentially redoing the whole master plan. And so it's a great opportunity for HPC to identify problems, you know, with the existing historic element, historic preservation element of the master plan, and you know, make the request that they be fixed.
Mm-hmm. And it would just be nice to collaborate with the subcommittee, inform them of the issues we have. So anyone want to volunteer for doing that?
Do you want to do that?
Okay, David's volunteering.
Is that for the master plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I'll help with that because I tell.
I think you're already on the list.
Okay.
Julie.
And Roger will do it.
Okay.
Okay. So we got it.
Okay.
And that's,
Right.
I would argue, even more important than the overlay because it has longer repercussions.
And I understand that the consultant will also be working, because I think when Michael Laplace was working on the consultants, and I guess he was working, David, you probably know, I assume part of that RFP or the criteria is what their scope of work was, that they were also going to be looking at the recommended districts, and that they would also be looking at other ones that are not on that list. So I think that's probably going to be a long-term project for that consultant, because not only HPC components, but everything else that's within the ordinance.
Yeah, I think we're expecting the effort to take a couple of years, start to finish, which doesn't mean that your subcommittee needs to work for a couple of years. You know, if you can come with recommendations sometime midway through this year, towards the end of this year, then it can work its way into the, you know, into the process.
And it's Clark Caton-Hintz is the consultant, and I don't know if they're going to have John Hatch active on the historic part of it, but he's a very well-known architect in Trenton and very well respected. So I look forward to it. Anything else?
Yeah, just this article that was in the Times a few weeks ago. I don't take the Sunday Times, but everybody who does send it to me about these joining two buildings to each other. We've had. I thought when people were talking about it, it was the one at 145 Ewing and the one on Harrison, and it isn't. And all three of them are really awful. And is that something that happened because of the new ordinance, or is that something where somebody found a loophole at some point and said, "Oh, I can get away with this"?
Yeah.
It seems very unfortunate to me. And
Yeah.
it occurs to me that years ago, there was an effort to put a 2 extra units attached to Beatty House. Was that part of the same thing way back when, or it just?
I'm not familiar with that, Elric, but I want to tease apart the awfulness from the new ordinance, because the new ordinance does not require the buildings to be attached. You can have a secondary or an accessory dwelling unit that's freestanding, as we have in much of the former borough, where carriage houses have been repurposed to be an additional dwelling unit. You can have them be, split on separate floors. So it's a way to get us an additional dwelling unit in neighborhoods that are not zoned for 2-family. But my personal perspective is that the problem with the design doesn't have to do with the ADU ordinance. It has to do with a problem in our bulk standards, and if you drive along Valley Road and look at some of the new houses that are being put up there, the roof forms and the massing are very awkward as well. And it has to do with the fact that we give sort of an FAR bonus for attics, that attics are not counted towards FAR unless they are over 7, the space is over 7 feet. So architects and clients are, trying to game that rule and essentially build space that has a ceiling height of 6'11" and, puff up the overall volume. And it's done in a very awkward, if you ask me, it's just like the aesthetics are out the window, and it's all about maxing out floor area because people want big houses. So it is something we're talking about fixing. The simplest fix that we've come up with is to just say, that any space that's over 5 feet ceiling height will count towards your floor area. That may not be enough in and of itself. We've also considered defining an attic as, right now it's defined as space that is contained either entirely or partially within the roof framing. And I've suggested we might even change that to read, an attic is space that is entirely within the roof framing and not allow, because conventionally that's what an attic was. So we're wrestling with ways to try and fix that. But I don't personally think that it's a problem with the accessory dwelling unit ordinance itself. It has more to do with the way that we're measuring floor area ratio.
I appreciate, I said awful, but your word awkward is much more appropriate. And they are awkward. And
they're ingracious.
Yeah.
Elric, I think the Beatty House was actually as of right. It's that weird zoning thing. If you connect the units, you can do it as of right. And she only came in front of us because it was in a historic district.
It's the same on Harrison.
Right.
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 David Cohen, can you address the one, I think it's 145 Ewing, which was the property, which was not in a historic district, but it obviously was a historic building. And I know that the agreement was that the applicant agreed to preserve the existing red house, but was able to add on to. But my understanding is a lot of people have talked to me and sent me photographs, and I know that you and I were copied on certain emails, that it's basically the whole siding has been ripped off. I mean, the interior, that's just, that's usually not something what would be reviewed, but the exterior itself. So I guess to what means is preserving the building. Because when you're ripping off the whole siding, I feel like you've already lost the
Floors,
the
too.
fiber of the.
Chimneys are gone. The floors are gone. It's there's when they won't use plaster. When they sheetrock it, you won't see any semblance of the old building whatsoever. It's frightening to me.
Yeah,
Right.
so I wish I could comment on it in an informed way. I do need to go back and look at the planning board approval because, you know, it did come to the planning board for a subdivision approval. And I'm as or more troubled by the fact that the site plan has no relationship whatsoever to what I remember the proposed site plan being in terms of where the additional house was going to go. And it was not right on top of the, that old historic structure. It was sort of another corner of the property. So I haven't followed up on it yet, Elizabeth. So I don't have too much to constructive to say, except that I'm concerned that, you know, applications are coming in and being approved in one configuration and then being completely altered without any input from the advisory boards. So, you know, I know that with preservation type stuff, things often are worded, you know, preserve to the greatest extent possible, and then it gets into the field and, you know, the applicant says, so this is all, you know, we discovered all these termites and we had to rip off all the siding, and the building department just goes along with it. But I don't really remember what the conditions of the approval were. I remember that Brooke, you know, this was Brooke Brown, I think is her name.
Yes.
Who had agreed to preserve it, but because, you know, I don't remember whether or not that was actually made a condition of the approval.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or not. But even if it, you know, even if it was, you know, the engineers and the building inspectors often, I think, are a little bit too accepting of an applicant's contention that something can't be done.
Well, we really appreciate your help with that. I think that's a great area of concern. So thank you. Thank you for being aware of that. Is there anything else? Because I don't want to keep you guys too long on December 20th.
I do want to just relate that back to the question of the master plan, because if there are, you know, important houses like that should be recommended, I think that, you know, I remember early in the discussion about that 145 Ewing, you know, there was an unwillingness to designate it as an historic district because it only had the one structure in it. And that was something that I guess was done in the township, but was never done in the borough historically. And so, you know,
I think that was a borough, David, isn't it? Wasn't there a borough property?
It was, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It was never put into an historic district because it was a single structure, and it was not the practice to create districts for a single structure in the borough, but it was in the township. And, you know, with Morven and with, not Morven, what's the one, Mansgrove.
Mansgrove. Mhm.
Right, and I think there are a couple of other, so that's one of the big, that's one of the biggest questions that should go into this master plan debate is, you know, we're one municipality now. Should we start having single structure districts, you know, throughout the municipality?
Right. Well, the ordinance does call out that you can have a historic site or district. That's the way the consolidated ordinance reads. So,
right.
I
David and
definitely
have
think-
worked before on having historic districts which are thematic. And whether we work with a single architect or a single style or a single purpose, not necessarily adjacent to one another. But one way or the other, we keep missing some of the historic fabric because of the limitations of the ordinance.
Right.
Anyway, David,
Right,
I think
and
your point's really well taken, and we should keep that in mind.
And also, you know, Elizabeth and I met with the State Historic Preservation Office, and they want changes to our ordinance. So I think this is important to involve the consultants and get something that we like and that the state can live with. So we'll get our CLG status back, and that, you know, we'll be protecting more in the future.
And I'll just comment, you know, you have a good ally in Michael Laplace. I think he's a lot more focused on historic preservation than his predecessor.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Wow. Well, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking to the master plan, you know, subcommittee in 2022.
One unrelated note, I guess probably a bunch of us got notification from New Jersey Historic Trust about their conference in June. They sent out a save the date if we can do things together again. June 3rd is going to be their annual conference that was not was postponed last year. I don't know if Frida and Tom have gotten those notifications. I guess we could just forward them. It's the annual conference for people like us, essentially.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, David.
A similar mailing list out from Historic Preservation Office asking you to help them with a small survey of priorities for historic preservation across the state. It took me like 3 minutes to fill it out, but I don't know if everybody on the commission got that. I guess I could forward that to Elizabeth, or maybe Elizabeth, you got it.
I don't think that I saw it, but if you forward it to me, I could distribute to all members.
Very good.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
That would be great.
And in
That would
terms
be
of the CLG status, I mean, the Historic Trust also put out their latest announcement for grants, the round of grants, several of which we could take advantage of if we could take advantage of them. It changed each cycle.
Well, the state made it pretty clear that they wanted us to revise our ordinance. So
Revamp it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think we're clear.
More
on-
than they told us the first time.
Yeah,
And
I
they
think
kept on
we're-
saying, oh, no, it's the same. I was like, no, you're asking for a lot more than what they said
Well, I
originally.
think I think we're at the point at which we might be able to consolidate the Type 1 and Type 2 districts.
Right.
We have a pretty good track record as to what types we've been dealing with, which seem, off the cuff to be mostly Type 2.
Yeah.
That's a great preponderance that I've seen. Or recall.
So I definitely think using these consultants as a resource for revising the ordinance is a great use of their time.
Sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's it.
So just clarification, should I assume that the subcommittee for the overlay is acceptable to the commission? Okay, anyone object? Okay, I just want to make sure I have it.
All right. So we will see each other in not too long, January 10th. So
Happy holidays.
It's pretty early. So
everyone.
have a good holiday. I'm
Have a
pretty
good
sure
holiday.
it's going to be on Zoom.
I miss your trifle, Shirley. I miss your. So I miss
Jello.
your Jello.
Your Jello pie.
I'll make it for New Year's. We'll have,
All right. Maybe we'll have a
Blessings,
spring
everyone.
party.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care. Peace
Bye,
out.
everyone.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Sure.
Welcome. Bye.